So welcome to the Node.js package maintenance team meeting for February 25th, 2020. We'll follow the agenda that was in the issue in the repo. And first of all, does anybody have any announcements that they would like to share? Okay, if not, let's move on to the issues which were tagged for the agenda. The first one is test tooling breakout session number 307. I think, Bethany, you were leading the effort on that one.
Yeah, I did write a summary. Let me just find it and I will reiterate it. So yeah, I posted a summary in issue 307 on the package maintenance issues. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. A lot of our discussions were around how can a module author test whether their changes are going to impact modules that depend on them. And we had a lot of discussion on how we could approach it. There was a suggestion of building a prototype. The first step of that being that you just create maybe a small CLI or very small tool that would just get the list of the modules that depend on a given module, and then we would work from there. And then we had some actions called out. So work would start on the prototype. Andrew Hughes who's on the call. I think may get some time to take a look at creating the first step of that prototype soon. And then we just agreed that we would spin off further meetings as required.
Okay, where you mentioned that you'd had a summary, I'm looking in 307, was it?
It's oh, I forgot that I'm not sharing my screen. It's like halfway through the comments.
Okay, here, right, this one right here, yeah. I see, okay. So do we need to leave this on the agenda, or can we take the agenda off for now until there's next steps?
Yeah, it was kind of just an FYI summary.
Okay. Sounds good. No, it's good to have that update. So I will then untag it. And let me just put in the minutes that you're the link to the update here. If I can get that copy. Okay. Held. Okay. Anything else to talk about on that one before we move on?
I don't think so. I guess all of this tooling, it was suggested that we would build it under the PKG.js repositories, and I know there's discussions going on elsewhere about that separate organization and how we kind of govern it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's probably sort of can go on in parallel, right? We can start to look at developing something and then figure out where to sort of develop them longer term. Okay, so the next issue was keeping dependencies and node up to date, which is number 280. I think Dominica, you opened that. Do you have an update framing for the discussion here?
Did we add it back? I added it back to the agenda, yes. Okay, yes, this was about getting the official Travis includes that we can share so that people can use those and automatically opt into the updates according to their policy, and possibly extend that for other CI systems like GitHub Actions or Circle CI. I'm being asked to move to somewhere. So yeah, this is about getting a separate repository for those. And I think in this case, it does make sense to put it under the official Node.js org rather than pkg.js, because this would be, I think, the official recommended way to get a list of node versions for your Travis, right? And that would be maintained by the Node.js and, I don't know, this team presumably, or whoever else is there. I'm not sure which other teams might make sense to have access to do that, but this is basically, yeah, an official way to get that list of node versions.
Okay, do we have,
so?
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering, do we have a name that we want to request?
I do not.
Okay, so let's figure that one out, and then we can I can take the action to submit it in the admin repo.
Yeah, so one complication would be if we, let me just step outside because I'm going to wake up the kids.
Okay, don't want that.
No. Because calling the thing Travis could have trademark implications.
Right, and I think you also mentioned that there could be other ones. So do we necessarily want to have it be a separate repo for each one? Or would it make sense to have a repo where we can have them all in it?
Yeah, I did consider that. I think it might make sense to have separate repos for that.
Okay.
But just a hunch, because all of these would have a different structure. Maybe one shared repo with a folder called Travis or a folder called GitHub Actions probably is less problematic trademark-wise, but I'm not sure.
One repo with name with directory for each CI. I mean, I guess what we could do is, like Travis, we could actually, if we're worried about using the name, we could contact them and say, this is what we're doing. You okay with that, right?
Yep. And if they're okay, we could just call the repo Travis, and then yeah.
Although I was thinking that with the directories, we could do that, right?
Yeah, with directories, I think it probably is not that problematic.
Right. What's the downside to directories? You have to clone a bit more, right? Is it?
It's more about organizing. So the fact that different CIs would probably be moving at different speeds and would have different layouts and different expectations of how the includes work. So I don't know. I don't know how would this be achieved in GitHub Actions, but in some cases they might be expecting files at the root of the repo or something like that, right? So basically, if you have a repo per CI, you're free to do any layout for each CI independently without enforcing any kind of structure and without affecting other configurations for other CIs.
Right. I guess it's like, does that need to be at the top level of the repo? Or because once you have a directory, then you can have whatever structure you want under the directory, right?
Yeah.
I just asked because more repos is more work, more teams.
Absolutely.
So like a single repo is, okay. Once we have 3, 4, or 5, it starts to just be more that.
Yeah. And this is a very long-term decision, right? Because if you tell somebody, take this Travis include, and you will always get the latest version of Node automatically, then it would be tricky to change that and let everybody make everybody upgrade or change and point to a new name if we decide that it's no longer good enough. So a separate repo per CI is probably a bit more flexible, right?
Right.
Or CI
okay.
tool.
How many CIs do we think there would be?
So off the top of my head, 3 for now.
Okay.
Right? Travis, Circle, and GitHub Actions, but I have no idea what other ones we might have. But also, this does bring back to the namespacing discussion with the pkg.js, and maybe Node has grown out a single organization, right? Like if we had an organization called node.js CI setup tools. Bethany is saying Glenn needs to be promoted.
Oh, sure.
Right, so if we had an organization called Node CI tools for packagers, right, for maintainers, give it a long name description.
Right.
No, if we had a separate organization where you could just put in a repository for CI tool, and it would be an organization dedicated to CI configs, maybe, you know, just namespacing that would be easier, and it also sort of fixes also the team structure, permission structure, and management. So it does add complication, but it does also makes organizing things easier. But also at some point, Node maybe probably will grow out a single organization. So
yeah, at this point, I think, you know, looking at the discussion on the other issue, I'm not sure lots and lots of orgs. Well, like asking the moderation team to look after multiple of them.
yeah,
it just does add, like we do just need to keep in mind, it does add overhead for every other org, every repo.
Sure.
So
did I see a tool somewhere which was using repo topics as folders to visualize things and organize things? Maybe just a topic inside an organization is good enough. I don't know. Can you assign permissions to topics?
what do you mean by a topic?
So, you know, you can add metadata keywords into each repository next to the title.
Okay. I'm not that familiar with that, but
On the page, there's a add topics, and you can add keywords there. Oh, cool. I'm not going to wake up my kids. The other kids here outside will wake them up.
So like you're saying in the settings, there's a...
Yeah, there's, well, I'm not an administrator here, but if you are, let me see. At the very top, just under the repository description, you usually have a link to add labels or something like add topics, sorry.
Okay.
And you can then label and organize the repos.
I don't think I'm in the right spot. Maybe, where is it?
We may as well just have a quick thumbs up, thumbs down vote in the issue, like, right, or a separate issue. Do we want to look for a separate organization? Do we want to keep everything in a single repository or separate repository per CI? And then, yeah, just vote on the naming.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. And we could probably like be a little more specific on what it would look like in each of the different cases.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we can probably pick a name that would be something like CI configs could be like a repo name if it was common.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we will say, let's get the list of options in the issue and then get input from the broader team. And then we can explore the feasibility of whichever one we think is preferred.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so any other discussion on that one before we move to the next issue? No, okay, let's move on. So PKGS org for workgroup supported tooling. This is number 271. If I look at that one, we did open an issue in the admin repo as one of the ends of the discussion. And just there's some discussion back and forth. So I think we just need to follow through, can stay engaged in that discussion, answering questions and so forth, to see where that ends up. Okay. Any other comments, discussion on that one at this point? Okay, the next one is document current top 10 Express issues. This is quite early for Wes, so I'm not surprised he can't make it. That's why we have different times. I don't think there's anything too new on this one. I don't know if anybody has any updates on the Express triage front, or I guess Bethany, sorry, Glenn, go ahead.
So yeah, so actually the triaging is actually working quite well. There's a couple of guys, John Church and myself, we chip in, and there aren't that many issues raised on Express, to be honest. They're usually like, what am I doing wrong? And we find an example, go, here you go, you do it this way. And people are pretty good. Actually, the number of open issues is declining, and that seems to be working. The triaging itself is working. Both Wes and I are just going through a patch of extra responsibilities that are distracting daytime vocations, which has slowed us down immensely. We have been chatting offline, both of us in the same situation, which is probably just temporary. And we'll be getting back to Wes's top 10 issue, which basically the big issue with that at the moment is it just takes so long to crawl through all the issues on Express. But actually the fundamental thing of the triages is working. There is a group of triagers, they chip in, and we are hitting down the issues. That's working. And
how many active people would you say, roughly, just as a?
Well, I'd say most active probably John Church and myself on there. There are those are the two most active ones.
Okay. You run into Jarish much, or?
I have not seen Jarish, but to be honest, there haven't been that many issues raised.
Okay, so you're looking specifically at the Express repo itself, because I know he was looking at the other repos.
So we may need to start looking at some of the other ones now and looking at issues raised on those. But I think we need to get structured a little bit to make that work, meaning we had the idea of like, oh, you just choose which ones you fancy being interested. We may actually need to get together, the active people, and say, no, these are the ones that actually are active and we should look at, because there are just so many of them. Yeah. And a lot of them are simple. They'll be like, there may be like 10 or 20 lines, but we may need to actually go in and have a little side meeting on which ones to actively follow.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Because I know Jarish has definitely been looking at a couple, 2, 3, 4 of them. But getting that visibility and coordination across everybody who's jumping in, I think would be good. Wes had suggested possibly doing that as part of the TC meetings.
I think what I'll do is I'll reach out to Jaresh and to Wes, now that you've said that, and try and coordinate a bit more, and with John Church as well on there, because he's been quite active on that front. I'm just checking. Yeah, so I think at least on the main Express repo, which is the one people do hit up with the I don't know why this isn't working quite often. Which is the one I think sort of the high visibility one. We just need a little bit more coordination on the other ones. One of the other things I've noticed is issues don't properly get closed, even if they're discussing or they're awaiting more information, and perhaps some rules around what to do with them so that we don't have 1,000 or 100.
Okay.
Because I just see a lot waiting for more information, and perhaps there needs to be some sort of time limit. If they're not interested, if it's been a month, perhaps they should be closed.
Right. Example. I think that's, that's totally fair. Like, like you said, if somebody's asked a question, but you've responded and there's no response after a month.
So I'll talk to Wes and Jaresh about that.
Okay.
Let me take that as an item on me.
Okay, sounds good. So I just wrote as the agenda thing, Glenn will reach out to Jarish, Wes, and John to see if to see if we can set up some sort of interlock, possibly in the Express TC meeting.
Mhm.
Sound good? And then issue schedule rules against around when to close. Because I assume you guys, you can close now, right?
We can, but mostly I'm asking, I don't like to be presumptive about what I am and not allowed to. So usually I'm
Sure.
asking the initiator, are you okay to close this? And they just close it. Okay, we've answered a question, they missed a slash out.
Yep.
Hey, Express is still working. I'm good with that, but we need to have some sort of rules between us about when we go in. And I think like that things hanging around for more information for a month would be cut a lot of them down, probably a third of them.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, and I was just saying technically you can, but the guidance would help you feel more comfortable in closing.
That's it.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
so that's good.
some of them might be real issues.
Right.
I don't think so, but they could be.
They could be, but you've got to prioritize as well,
Yeah,
right? So if you don't have somebody interacting to help you figure it out, even if it is a real issue, you're not going to make progress. Okay, that's a good update. Anything else you want to bring up, discuss on that topic?
That's good. No, we're fine there. It's just
Okay.
like everything. I think Wes and I are a little bit challenged at the moment.
Okay. Lots going on.
On
next
that point,
up,
Michael.
So go ahead.
In the last meeting, Wes mentioned there were some issues with the timeouts for the Express status board.
Yep.
So I've been taking some time to try and look at that, try and see if I can improve the timeouts by changing the queries from using GraphQL instead of using the GitHub REST API. So I should create a work in progress PR on that pretty soon. Open up the PKGS org.
That sounds good. So that'll fix up the Express board itself, so it's easier to look at the issues across the repos, right?
Yep.
And soon is kind of like this week, is that?
Next couple of days, I'll probably have a good work in progress draft up.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Any other topics, things to discuss on that one before we move on? Okay, if not, the next one is 192, next steps in the support levels. So if I seem to remember the minutes from last week, there was some discussion of this. I am looking at the last comment, which are current next actions are tweak the references to the funding proposal fields. So that is complete. We did that a while. So I'm just going to mark that down. So this is complete. And then the next one was to update the PKGS validation tool to support the current version. And then the broader call for input. So I don't know if anybody's has there been any work while I was away on the tool or looking at that? I know we actually had a couple of versions of the tool, so maybe we need to open an issue to discuss what we should start with. Or actually, like, did we land? There was a couple of versions, but I wonder what landed in the PKGS repo. So we have the support. Okay, so I see it's Wesley and EOM who'd work mostly on that. So maybe I'll take the action to reach out to them to figure out how we want to start progressing that now. And sorry, I'm just getting back to the minutes. Okay. Oops, I thought I'd done that somewhere. I guess I put it in the wrong spot. From minutes, from the issue, and the next steps. First step is complete to update, incorporate the funding field from NPM. Michael, reach out to Okay. Okay, so that's the end of the issues that were on the agenda. We do have potentially taking a look at the project review board. Before we do that, do people have any topics they would like to discuss or add to the agenda? If not, I'm going to open up the status board and we can just take a quick run through on that. Okay, so in progress. So blog to post to get broader feedback on support info for packages. I think we just talked about that one. Reach out to Travis to get option that includes LTS plus current releases.
I think they had a PR open to change the default from current to LTS. And I'm not sure where that landed. And I think maybe we need to revisit that so that they start off with LTS as the default for new projects. And I know that there was some discussion around starting off with the oldest LTS at the moment, which is debatable, but as long as they change current to LTS is probably valuable regardless of which LTS, and the rest we can handle with the custom configs, and then we can close that issue.
Right, okay. So we've got, do we need a new issue for the first part that you talked about?
No, I think I'll just follow that up.
Okay. The next one is document how to specify non-production files in package.json. Explore tools to remove non-production files, explore tools to help maintain or generate package.json sections. I think that's an idea, but I don't think we've made any progress on that so far. Sigim for module dependence.
Yeah, just discussions right now. I will have something in the coming months, but yeah, this is going to.
Right. Now, do we have other issues? Like we had the breakout for tooling. Or is this a different, like I see it mentioning Fastify Sigim.
Yeah, that was just listed as an example of how they are currently working and what they're doing.
Okay. But I just wonder if like is this now a duplicate of the tooling breakout, or do we have an issue for the next steps on the tooling? So Bethany, is there a new issue for that one?
I didn't open any. Maybe we should for each of the actions.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe if you can take an action to open those, and then probably this one on the board could be closed as like with a pointer to those ones. Does that make sense?
or this could be kept for the, so we discussed multiple small CLI tools. And this would just be one part of that whole suite initially for the MVP. So I think.
Okay, so I guess it's take a look at this one. Maybe this is the parent one even, I don't know. So maybe Bethany, you can look at this issue, factor in the discussions we had in the breakout, and come up with some issues that we can track.
Yep, sure.
Okay. And this could be the sort of kicking the top level one or Epic or something. Baseline practices, keeping dependencies in Node up to date. I know, Dominika, you've been, I think, working on that one, right?
Yeah, I have the PR open. I need to make some tweaks there to the text, and then this can be closed essentially.
Okay. So that's what's in progress. We have a few things in to-dos. Blog out support levels. So again, so yeah. Blog post on adding to, yeah, okay. So those are all, I think, once we get through more, the next step on the support levels. Document pave paths for minimizing size of published packages and maximizing the availability of the content, tests, etc. I think we did have at least one content was developed around, but I'm not sure it quite covers that. So I guess this makes sense to leave in the backlog. Define opt-in process and then list volunteers generate peers top modules to ensure testing against LTS releases in current. So I guess that was the idea of how could we help packages. Now I think the current effort of the standard configs, Travis, is probably the first step for that, right? If we have those as templates, then those are the things we might want to help get into projects. So I think we could leave that until those. Define baseline practices for testing. Baseline practices maintainers. Key packages, open enrollment. Best practice managing LTS and release lines for user land modules. So those are all just in the to-do. I don't know if there's anything to discuss on those at this point. I don't think so. No? Okay. So I guess at this point, is there anything else people want to discuss this week? Nope. Okay. I think I may be at a conference next meeting, so I think Bethany, you chaired last time, so maybe I'll ask you to do it again next time if that works. I'll have to check the time.
Yeah, I'll check my schedule, but I should be able to.
Okay. Otherwise, I'll ask for another volunteer, but I guess we'll talk to everybody next time then.
Cool. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.